Welcome to the Wally Report, MMA Savvy exclusive. Listen, the Dark Knights of MMA are back again, and we're ready to go nuts. In standard Savvy fashion, we'll be discussing the most recent UFC cards, covering all the hot MMA news, and deep diving specific UFC weight classes. Then we'll also look ahead to the big fights on the horizon and lay down our world famous Savvy picks. This is your magnificent host, Ari Weiss. And once again, I'm joined by our Excuse the Savvy co-host, Niko Tskalakos. Niko, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Ari. Great to be back. You know, we had a kind of a strange one because we only had one card in the interim. But we're excited to be back in action here.
Yeah, so we'll go straight into it. You know, for people coming to Savvy for the first time, and I know our YouTube videos are starting to blow up, baby. We got lots of new listeners coming over. I know I mentioned it a little bit in the intro there, okay? But let's talk about the episode breakdown for people that don't know the layout of how an Excuse the Savvy episode rolls. And I almost forgot, this is Excuse the Savvy round 6, which is saying that this is our 6th show, bro.
Which is great.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just catching a roll. We're catching a roll. We're catching momentum here.
Yeah, so first we start with the recent card analysis, which you talked about. There was only one card in the last 2 weeks, which was shocking. UFC Fight Night, Garry versus Prates. A lot happened last night. I'm pumped on that Garry win, even though it was very scary there at the end. Okay. Then big MMA news. I got a bunch of decent bookings. I don't know if I'm happy with some of the bookings. We're going to go into that. And, you know, I'll probably go on a little bit of a rant on that whole BMF nonsense, state of the MMA world topics. We're going to talk about, I need to go back to 10-8 rounds just briefly, because in my mind, last night was a good example of could round 5 have been 10-8? And then go back into the half point system. Then we're going to do a divisional analysis on featherweight today. And what's so big about that is, if you recall last week, because so much stuff happened in the featherweight world. So then upcoming card analysis and fight picks, baby. Sandhagen Figgy next week. Okay, we got some good stuff on the horizon. And then the week after, baby, UFC 315, Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. We're going to end just like the last show. Remember how we ended on the pay-per-view? Remember how that was the whole deal? And you were like, oh, finally, so that our next show is going to be popping off right after that
just
pay-per-view.
Post pay-per-view, big title fight.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then, of course, the if you were to touch section there. Okay. So before we go into the meat of the show, let's take our first quick commercial break. And we're back to the show, baby. Okay, boom.
There it is.
You can see this, right? So this was a pretty great fight night. I got to say, you know, in Kansas City, the crowd was into it. Garry, Prates, of course, remember they filled in because Hill Roundtree, because of the injury, things got moved. And so, but this fight delivered. I'm pretty pumped on what happened last night. I think overall it was a pretty great night of fights. Yeah, we're going to go straight to the main card here. Okay, and then I'm going to start off, Niko. We're going to go back and forth here on the analysis. I mean, the whole main card is actually really good fight. For the first time in a while, like besides the pay-per-views, actually a fight night was chock full of fights I was excited for, right? I don't know if we could have said that. I don't know if we've been able to say that recently. Right? So Muniz Aliskerov is actually how you pronounce it. So this was interesting. As you can see, Ikram was heavily favored. We both took him, but I remember you were even like, our if you were to touch pick was Muniz. We were very worried about this. Muniz was coming off the win. Aliskerov was coming off the loss. And we thought like maybe he shouldn't have been that heavily favored, right? But man, he just ran right through him. Another very impressive middleweight. We keep talking about this division. I mean, Muniz was barely in the fight. He got hit by a punch, and then he just swarmed him and just dropped bombs. It wasn't even like a fight. He ran right through him. That's all you really even need to say. We both hit our first pick. So there are two parts to this, and then I'll let you give your take here. Is Ikram now is a big problem at 185, right? Very, very, you know, special guy, where like Muniz is kind of like, fuck, man, is this guy, he went from a super scary guy couple
Right.
years ago to maybe just being done now. I mean, he's lost like 3 of the last 4 fights. I was more disappointed in Muniz than even that impressed by Alaskarov. So what do you say here?
I mean, I agree with everything you said about just him running through. Within one round, it was over. He caught him, I think, with a left, wobbled him, it was over. Alaskarov is scary. Does he have now the momentum to fight up? I think he does, clearly, and I'm very curious who they're going to give to him next, because he was big in that ring to me, and I was very impressed by him. So that's the story for me. Muniz, like you said, had a lot of, he's more of a veteran now. He's sort of like, peaked out potentially, and sort of is on the denouement, so to speak. So that's my take there. Very interested to see where Alaskarov ends up here with his next fight.
Yeah, because what happened was, remember, he came in, he won 2 fights. They gave him Whitaker all of a sudden. I think it
It
was
was a
like
little too soon.
way
Yeah.
too high up in class, and Whitaker took care of him. And then now he's back in a big way. He's another mate. God, this division just gets better. I mean, look at another new guy at 185, just hovering right outside of the top 15.
Wow.
All right, I'm
Wow.
going to pivot back over to you, Dalby Brown. Another, like, this was fight of the night, and it deserved it for the back and forth. I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, it really did. And, Dalby, I took a little bit of an underdog there. I wanted to take a little bit of a risk in that one. And the guy gets his nose moved to the side of his head, and he's still in there throwing bombs, landing. But of course, Randy Brown's performance is to be touted for what he accomplished. The way he was able to use his length to his advantage, keep the distance, the fight where he wanted it to be with that distance, and he kept landing strikes. And with accuracy was what stood out to me, until ultimately he just got the better of Dalby and really overwhelmed him, and it was really a wonderful sight. So very good performance for Randy Brown at that welterweight, space, and let's see where this takes him.
Yeah, this is another guy now flirting right outside of the top 15. They talked about it in the post-fight interview of like, hey, how are you not already in the top 15? That now he's going to get a big fight with someone there. That win was impressive. Dalby's no joke. We've seen him be underestimated before when he upset one of the Bonfim brothers, if you recall.
Yep.
And he still hung in there. He still was like, even though Brown had broken his nose, he still hung in there and he still was throwing shots. And then they got into the second round, and then Brown just was very resilient. Even though Dalby was coming forward,
Exactly.
he dealt with it, and then he still
And you know what it was,
those
Ari?
huge shots. Yes.
What I think was the balance, that way that he balanced his striking with, and his kicks and his boxing, the way he mixed that up, and just those combinations, I thought just were very, very impressive, with his long arms and power, just worked beautifully for him.
Yeah, so I think the story is fight of the night. What an amazing scrap. This is, I guess, the street fight fans want to see this, right? This, your boy Richie is going to be popping off on this Rude Boy fight. Now, so I think the two stories here is maybe Dalby. I think he's 40 now. Does he hang him up? I mean, yes, he still has another fighter so in him, but like he's obviously probably not going to be a top 15 guy. And then Brown, maybe the sky is the limit. Can he go in there and actually make some noise? All right, so now we're going to flip it back. Remember how what we talked about last time, bro, was like we had been denouncing Dana's light cards. And remember how last time when we did the analysis, because we basically said that if a fight night does not have the final 3 fights, if they are not ranked, Dana's screwing us, okay? And this one happened to be 4. Yes, they weren't maybe all the dream matchups of you've ever wanted. But look, we got, so starting here, number 14 in the world, the other Pereira, as like I like to call him, but he also is a striking superstar, against Magomedov. This was close. You had touched Pereira. I had the balls to take Magomedov. And okay, this is what was weird. It was a little bit of a lackluster fight. I think Magomedov had a great first round, and he used like some grappling, his striking, and it kind of tired Pereira out. But I got to say, the bigger story was like, usually Pereira comes in with crazy, vicious strikes and tons of energy, and he's been finishing guys. except for the loss to Hernandez, but that was on the ground. And I thought he'd be much more active. And it was kind of like, even the announcer, Laura Senko, was like, is something off with him? Is
Yeah,
he sick? Are we going to hear something about, he just wasn't right. He didn't seem like the Pereira that we know, right? So it was ended up being close in rounds 2 and 3 because it was kind of like both guys, they almost got booed because they were
I know.
the crowd after the Brown Dalby was so spoiled that they thought every fight the rest of the night was going to be like a fucking, gladiator fight in Rome or whatever. But it still was. But I got to say, my pick landed. Magomedov looked pretty good. He was smart. He didn't want to get too risky and throw crazy bombs with Pereira because we know Pereira is deadly, and he just did enough to get the win. Was it the
Yeah.
greatest fight ever? No, but now Magomedov will be 14 in the world middleweight. So, hey, another guy, maybe, I don't know if he comes in now looking like Alaskarov does, but hey, he's number 14 in the world. What do you say to this?
Well, what I say here is that the first thing that struck me is, again, the size of these two, when they entered that ring. I was like, these are beasts. I was thinking about, like, even Adesanya and Strickland. You think about, the Duplessis, like, even they don't seem at their stature, just in terms of size. So these look like big, enormous
Yeah,
middleweights,
almost like light
like
heavyweights.
hunkering. Yeah, they look like light heavyweights. It's kind of scary. But it was disappointing with Pereira not able to show that explosiveness at all in this fight. And that was a disappointment because he's usually explosive. He just didn't show that. He had some flurries and some glimpses of what he's shown us before, but he didn't really come through in this fight, and I was a little bit disappointed. Was something off? He was more timid. He allowed Magomedov to keep pressuring him. He didn't pressure back in any really meaningful way, though he did compete in rounds 2 and 3, as you pointed out, Ari. So he made it somewhat competitive, and Magomedov's steam he lost that steam that he had in the first round, but ultimately, it was given to the deserved fighter, and Magomedov got the win. Wasn't very pretty, didn't make a lot of fight fans happy, but Magomedov gets to enter the equation, and that guy's a huge beast, but I don't know what he brings. I need to know more about what he brings to the table here to really make a run.
Yeah, I think he does have a good mix of the grappling and the striking. And, you remember in that Strickland fight, he looked really scary in the first round, and then he kind of like wilted once
Right.
Sean started throwing. So he has promise. He has promise. Just another guy. Hey, and now he's 14 in the world. So he's got to be happy. Okay. Then we're going to go back. I'll let you take
Wow.
this one first. Giga versus Onama. Go ahead.
Okay, well, were there 3 takedowns in this fight? And Onama got all 3 of them. It was 3 for 3 in terms of takedowns. That's the story of this fight. Am I correct here? Chikaze, you show what you can do in the 3rd round where I saw you what you are capable of in terms of your striking. You were able to show that off a little, but you were very tired. And that's it. You were kind of overwhelmed by Onama. Onama had his number all fight, and that's all I got to say. And I'm a little bit disappointed in Giga right now.
But I will actually, and you guys remember because I was texting you, I will actually back you guys up and say that Giga won this fight. I don't think
What?
Onama
Really?
does. Yeah, I don't think Onama deserved the decision.
Wow.
Here's the thing. Giga edged round 1. He had better strikes, and I think Onama had like some late grappling, but it wasn't enough. Then Onama takes round 2. That one, I think he just pretty much controlled him the whole time. And round 3, Giga came out
Yeah, I
swarming,
felt,
and he
yeah.
never like fully connected, but he threw a lot of good shots that landed. He had more damage in my eyes. And then with about just under 2 minutes, Onama gets the takedown, but he didn't really do anything. And so even Richie Boy said, oh, now you're finally on the side of strikes. Here's the thing. If there's enough good, valid, significant strikes before a takedown, and then nothing happens with the takedown,
I agree, yeah.
then I'm on your guy's side.
Okay,
In the
good,
other
okay.
cases, it was where there was just like no strike. So of course the control's gonna win. But this one, Giga threw enough. And so I thought it should have went Giga Chikadze. I thought at least there should have been a split, and it was a unanimous for Onama. I don't really think he did enough. I'm not that impressed with him. But Giga didn't really seem like he was complaining at the end when they
Yeah,
gave
he
the
didn't
decision.
seem
But
like he had it. And I'm also going with just the knowledge that I have just historically. I feel like the fight's usually given to the guy who has that control time. even if the other guy has more strikes going on before that, and has more significant strikes and more action on the feet, that there's a bias, I feel, toward, just in terms of the judging, there's a bias toward the ground game in UFC. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of my gut feeling about it. And so I kind of even put up a fight on this when I kind of accepted Giga lost that fight. But I'm happy to hear your thinking there, because I
know. I think Giga won the fight. I think Giga won the fight.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. So listen, it's not one of those ones where you're like, oh my God, it was a terrible decision. He was robbed, but I thought Giga had done enough to get the win. I just didn't think Onama was impressive enough, because he got the takedowns, but he kind of just laid on him. You know, he barely even got, if he had got a bunch of ground and pound in. And here's the thing. If he had also done the takedown maybe at the 3-minute mark, I would have given it. But when it's only like the final minute 45 and Giga had landed some good shots, I think he should have won this 29-28, but fine. It's not one of those ones that you're jumping up in arms. Now I think Chikadze, he needs to develop better takedown D, because now Onama is going to be number 12 in the world and Giga is going to get moved to 13. And that rising superstar that we were talking about 2 years ago, what's he going to do? Okay. Co-main event. Listen, I got a lot to say here. You know, there's a lot of good things that happened with this last night. So Anthony Smith, Zhang Ming Yang in the co-main event. We all know Smith retired. He's from Omaha, Nebraska, so Kansas City's kind of close. It would have been nice if they got in Nebraska, but at least it's close to home. And let me talk about the positives first, and then I'll give Richie Boy my negatives here. I do like that the UFC is doing this now, because this is a very brutal sport. In a lot of other sports, people know you're retiring. They know it's your final year. They almost, like with a baseball player or a basketball player, the whole year, they know sometimes, hey, it's my final year. And then they give you your flowers and they have all these like nice moments at different arenas and Kobe's final year and all this stuff. A lot of time in the fight business, it's very harsh. And fighters don't retire until they've had a couple just terrible losses. And then they never really get a great moment where everybody's cheering for them and they're watching nice videos and blah, blah, blah. So because I like Smith, especially as a commentator, I think he's an amazing analyst. He was a great fighter, too. We all know that he got to John Jones. He fought Teixeira in a very close fight. He fought a lot of these great fighters. And the funny thing is, I almost forgot about the fucking illegal knee in the Jones fight. If he had stayed down, he actually would have been the champ of the world, but he never wanted to go out like that. I don't know if you noticed that when they were showing that at the end. Anyway, so I do like that he got to go out with his family and the fans, and it was like, and actually the UFC, which is kind of known as a very kind of harsh, what have you done for me lately business, it ended in this nice, give him his flowers, send him off type thing. But what I don't still love about it, Richie Boy, and the fans, and I don't want to sound like a prick here, but I just don't know, like, he just hasn't been competitive for years. I mean, they've been trotting him out. Yes, he got a couple. He did get the slick submission win against Petrino like last year or about a year and a half ago. So he's still relevant with a couple of his guillotines. But anytime they put him up, and I don't even want to go, I looked at the history, he basically had just kind of turned into sort of a, no disrespect, but he was almost like a punching bag. Like he was going out there like he wasn't moving anymore. I'm like, Anthony, are you even trying to go out and win the fights anymore? Like, why are you going back out? And it almost was like, remember that one Overeem fight where he came out against like Volkov and he like wasn't even throwing punches anymore and just let him just get hammered. So one was, I'm unhappy that this was a co-main because it's not a competitive fight. Yes, we're trying to do this nice send-off, and yes, it's in Kansas City, fine. But I just feel like maybe lower him on the main card, even though Rich disagrees. And then I know it wouldn't have worked for the way they wanted to show the videos and all these nice things, and for the production, that wouldn't have worked. But I just want to see competitive fights. At least go out on your sword. Like he should have, once he realized he was losing, and yes, this guy's very, very good, very scary Chinese guy here, who's now going to be 15 in the world. Smith should have just started throwing bombs. Like if you're going to lose anyway, it sort of just went out again. Like it almost looked like he just kind of gave up. You know what I mean? Like he looked kind of decent at the beginning. So I'm struggling with these because this is the way Smith has been fighting for like 2 years now. It's like the Holland thing, and you just keep trotting him out thinking it's going to be different. And
Right.
then we're just all supposed to like sit there and be like, "Ah, I have mixed feelings because we want the best fights all the time. And this
Yeah.
just is sort of,
Yeah, I don't think you
he
can
didn't really see,
compromise
it
the
wasn't
top 2 spots of the
competitive.
you don't think you can compromise the top 2 spots of the card, of any card, for what they wanna do with a send-off fight and to honor, a great but you don't sacrifice the top 2 spots of a card for that. Alright, that has to be that's part of the competitive part of the sport, and you can't mess with that. That's a sacred 2 spots there. I appreciate that they wanna give Anthony Smith his due. They wanna honor him. They wanna send him off in the right way for everything he's done for the sport. Great. Put him at the
The
first
opening
fight of the
fight of the main
main card.
card.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. You're still ranked. You deserve to be there. All right. You give your, and you go out there. And yes, we've been seeing Anthony Smith essentially just caving the last 3, 4 fights. I just haven't seen anything, and it was tough. In this one, I saw a little bit of a life to him. Something kind of happened somewhere in that first round, but
Yeah, he
it
fought
was
a
just
little bit.
impossible situation. And who is this Zhang Minyang guy? Suddenly, I am so interested to see this guy. He's a scary beast. Let's see if when he's up against some real competition here, what happens and who they put him up against. But I'm very interested in Zhang Minyang here. And Smith, great career for everything you've done. Nothing against you. What we're saying here, we're just talking about keeping the integrity of the competitive aspect of the sport, right? So that's what I think the criticism here. Richie might disagree, but this was a good one.
Yeah, because Richie's point is, wow, it's just a fight night. But it's like, I'm sick of that, bro. Fight nights are massive fucking cards, too. This was
Oh,
Garry
yeah.
Prates. What are you talking about? They're not just these throwaway bullshit things. And he's almost part of the problem if he's thinking that they are. Every fight, a UFC fucking card, whether it's a fight night or a pay-per-view, is the best fighters in the world. It's one of the biggest fucking things that we're looking forward to. So I think you're right. He should have just been the first fight of the main card. Then you could still have done your tribute and then put all the, even third down. If it wasn't in the co-main, if it was like they just flipped Giga to the co-main or whatever and put
Exactly.
Smith, maybe third down. I just don't think it can be in a premier spot right now, especially when he's not going to go out and it's not competitive. But yes, Zhang Mingyang, holy shit. He has 12 wins in a row. The guy is crazy, and now he's going to be number 15 in the world. That's the bigger storyline. But I do at least like, and not to go over and over on this, at least it was a nice moment that they did for Smith that a lot of other fighters don't get in other sports that you always get. And you usually don't get that in the UFC. And that's probably what they're going to do for Poirier. But I'm going to have a lot of issues with that too. But we're going to come back to that. And then now the main event. What a fucking fight. Garry Prates. I'll let you take this. And then I have a lot to say here too.
Well, listen, I feel somewhat vindicated by my pick here with Garry. I really saw a sophisticated fighter in the previous fight he had with Rakhmonov. Okay. I saw Garry went toe to toe with one of the, if not the best fighter in the division, very close to. So I really appreciate the way he takes advantage of his reach, and he would get to Prates before Prates could do anything. So he's always able to sort of, and one of the announcers mentioned the same thought, this idea of like stifling. He knows how to stifle the offense of the other opponent to then renders them sort of like useless or very sort of minimally impactful. And that's what Prates did all fight except for the last round. He just wasn't there. He was a shell of himself for 4 rounds. In comes the 5th round. He's trying to give something, and he almost steals. He stole that round. We can give him one round. It was a 4-1 fight, in my opinion.
He might have won round 4 too, but continue.
There was not. I think Garry had this clearly, like all 4 rounds, and then Prates comes in the last round and really wobbled Garry and almost finished him. And it was scary to see how weakened Garry was in the end there. But in my opinion, it was a clear, decisive victory for Garry. And it says to me, Ian Mikado, Garry, we just heard Dana White confirm it will be the backup of the next title fight. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. The Mohamed Jack Della. He's now officially the backup in Montreal in 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
I'm just
And
surprised though, because usually like they needed to do the medical check though to see if he can fight because he did get beat up a little bit near the end. I'm surprised that they're giving that to him, and that because I'm usually the doctor says, well, 30 to 60 day suspension, but maybe they checked him already and he was fine. But yeah, 2 weeks. That's what they're saying.
wow. Wow. So tell
Okay,
me your
so
thoughts are here.
so here's the thing. I think the biggest story was I took Prates, as you know, because Garry just didn't look that great to me against Neil, against MVP. He barely squeaked those wins. So I thought like his star, was kind of dipping a little bit. And then he loses to Rakhmonov, even though he was in it, but he wasn't like that impressive. So I was kind of like his star had diminished a little bit to me, even though those are really high quality guys and he's still quite young. Prates, on the other hand, 4 straight, like oozing confidence. The Fighting Nerds hadn't even fucking lost until last night. So I went with Richie Boy. I took Prates just because I thought maybe he was just going to be too deadly. And Garry, sometimes he doesn't throw enough. Sometimes he's he's a little complacent
Right,
sometimes.
right.
So I thought Prates.
He doesn't have the killer instinct. Like I'm not seeing him with that decisive KO. I'm gonna take this guy out, but he does it with volume and he does it with insistent, and persistent striking, and
Which is
balance.
fine. Yeah, which is fine because that's how like Bisbing used to be, and like even Adesanya a little bit sometimes. So,
Right.
but here's the thing. But I gotta say, man, I was jacked up. I was so impressed by Garry because he went in and basically, and you're right, Prates looked like a shell of him. And the first round was scary, but Prates it never really threw. Garry slowly took control of it, and then rounds 2 and 3, I was like, oh my god, he mixed in a little bit of the takedowns. But even his striking was better. He was landing Prates. Prates couldn't do shit. He was
Those head
barely
kicks. Yeah.
fucking throwing, and the head kicks and the punches he was landing, and it was only in the 4th round that Prates finally came alive and he started throwing and he clipped Garry a couple times. I think Prates and 2 of the judges did actually see round 4. I would say round 4 went to Prates, but it was close. And then the final round was the very scary, insane round where it's like he never dropped him, but I think he flipped him on the ground because they were doing some jujitsu, and then all of a sudden he got some ground and pound. Then he was 2 punches away. The fight was over. It was very close. I was freaking screaming. I was like, no, there was 55 seconds to go, and I thought they were almost going to stop it. If he had landed 2 more of those, Garry it even looked like he almost slightly went out for a second on one of them. I'm like, oh my God, thank God the judge was just enough to let it go. And then, so he got the unanimous. But I got to say, so even though that happened, I'm still very, very impressed with Garry here. I mean, he went against this new killer that's knocking everybody out. And he basically, Prates couldn't do anything but what was here on the flip side, what was Prates doing, though? He gave way too much of the fight away. Like, if you could do it, why did he wait till the 4th round to start going for it? He should have done that in the second, at least by the 3rd. So I'm very confused by Prates. All these people are kind of like, I've been going nuts on Garry, and Richie's all pissed off. He's all sore about it. And he's saying, but it's Prates' fault. If you're being pissed about anything, be pissed at your boy Prates. He didn't decide to fucking go for it until it was too late. If he had done that in the 3rd round, that could have changed the whole fight. He might have squeaked 3, 4, and 5 and stolen the fight, right? So very weird there.
Does Prates lose his ranking, or does he stay in the top 15?
Because remember, it's a leapfrog system. You don't go back from a loss unless once in a while you might go 1 slot if like the number 15 guy comes off a big win or somebody else jumps into it, but you're not going to. But Garry maintains his number 7 in the world. Prates stays at 13. Still, if he can just decide to go earlier in a fight, he's going to be a scary, scary guy. So now Garry, man, yes, besides the final round, which still worries me, he looks unbelievable to go, and now he's going to be, just like you said, he's the backup for the Muhammad Jack Della fight. So you see how jumping in short notice, because he did take this on short notice too. Don't forget, Garry took this on a couple of weeks' notice. So he came in and to look that good and then now have this opportunity. Now, of course, he's coming out and saying that he wants to fight Muhammad. He wants to
Really?
then fight Islam at welterweight if Islam moves up. And then he wants to get the revenge on Rakhmonov. I mean, come on, baby. He's being a little bit too much for me, but he's trying, but he's very confident. You know,
I
he's
didn't
saying
hear that. That's fascinating.
you
Okay.
didn't see that as his plan. He's like, I got a 3-fight plan in the press conference. That's what he's saying, that he's going to take it. And he said he's going to dismantle. I'm going to dismantle Rakhmonov in the rematch. You know, he said, and I'm like, all right, I like it. I like when they're brazen and they have to believe what they're saying, but is almost that too much? But anyway,
We'll see.
so that's
We'll see.
Now, here's the final thing I want to say, and it's going to come up later. This is like, we need to understand 10-9 and 10-8 rounds. That's another part of the scoring, because we're never really seeing a lot of 10-8s be scored. When you're a punch away from finishing Garry, how is that not a 10-8 round in the end? Yes, he didn't drop it. If he had dropped him multiple times and was literally on top of him with ground and pound and then got saved, that's probably a 10-8. And I guess they're saying, well, he just got to hit him with a couple punches. But when you're literally a punch to 2, maybe away from the stoppage, how is that not a 10-8? And then
You mean when Volkanovski dropped Makachev and was on pounding him, should have been a 10-8 round?
That's not a 10. I don't think that's a 10-8, because he wasn't being close to being stopped. He was just he was punching him on the side. It wasn't. I'm saying he wasn't being close to being stopped. This was like, oh my God. I was like, this was razor thin. Prates was 2 punches away from them finished the fight being over. If that happens,
watch it again.
That's got to be a 10-8. And then the crazy thing, this becomes a draw, because 2 of the judges gave Prates round 4. And then if that's a 10-8 in round 5, this is a draw. So I'm a little bit surprised, and I want to bring this up, but I think we don't need to analyze now the division, because we're going to talk about that later with the Muhammad fight. So great. I think with that, what we're going to do is we're going to total up our picks. So, okay, I go 5-1 for the night. You go 3-3 because Garry ends up saving your hide at the end there. And I'm pissed I didn't have the cojones to take Garry with you. Okay. This totals up the yearly count. I'm 32-13. This is like a monumental run that we've never seen. You're now a nice, respectable 25-20. You're still 5 over 500. That's clean, but I'm up by a walloping 7 fights now.
Yeah, I took some risks this past week, and I knew that I could go down. I took risks just to try to turn the tables on you a little bit and try to take a couple that I thought might have gone a different way. Didn't work out for me, but I'm still competitive. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And then if you were to touches, Garry hit, Muniz loses. So we go 1-1, but that's fine. Listen, you can't win them all. Muniz was just that upside. You had that weird gut feeling that maybe he could pull off some submission or something like that. Yeah. All right. So before we get into our hot news, let's take another break from our sponsor. All right. And we're back to the show. This is where things get crazy. All right. So we don't have as much bookings as we did last time. I mean, last time we had all those bookings. I had like 6 or 7 things to show. I think we're just going to go through 3 or 4 bookings here just to set the stage. In a couple weeks, May 31st, so about a month from now, we already know about the Blanchfield Barber, so we don't need to go back over that. The one that we just need to dissect is Gamrot Klein. Okay, so let me go and then I'll get your thoughts, because, you know, I know Gamrot's your guy. I'm sure you have a lot to say on this. Gamrot had recently come out and said, hey guys, give me a fight. So obviously he had been trying to fight up, but probably he couldn't get someone to book it, to, you know, someone to fight him because of the fucking logjam with Islam and Topuria. All those other guys are waiting in the wings, and so they probably didn't want to agree to a fight with Gamrot and fight down, right? So Klein is sitting there, a new Slovakian who's won like 5 straight fights, and he's probably like, Dana, I'll take anybody. And then Gamrot, just to want to stay busy, he's forced to just fight against this new crazy killer. And so here's the thing. I like it because just we get to see action. Now this makes this card more exciting because now you got a great co-main and we're both big Gamrot guys. But then at the same time, I don't love it because Gamrot's forced to be so risky He's number 7 in the world. He's got to fight an unranked guy just
Right.
because no one else is to book a fight with him.
Yeah,
So
where's the 8 through 15 that could isn't there someone from 8 to 15 at least where that he
that could
could
have
fight?
happened, but maybe he just wanted something quick. Klein was there. He thinks maybe he can just wrestle him. Klein looks like a very serious foe, though. I don't even have the line on it yet. But I just wanted to bring it up. At least
That's
it
great.
makes the card a lot
It's
better. How do you
exciting.
feel about this?
I feel like you do that, it's all a result of whatever all the shenanigans going on at the top of the division. And so he needs to fight. He was willing to take it. Anytime you're fighting someone outside of the top 15 that has a run like this, there's a major risk with that. There's a big risk for Gamrot, but he's willing to step in, willing to do it. And I think that'll give him some cachet, for that his next fight. I took the young guy, I took the guy coming in. I was willing to do it. No one else was. All right, I can have a little bit more say in what my next fight is. So good for him. Let's see what happens. It does strengthen this card, makes it a little bit more exciting. I see the Serbian guy. I like that guy.
Yeah. Dusko.
Yeah,
But at least the one thing it does keep him active because Gamrot hasn't fought in a while. So we always talk about inactivity can be your worst enemy here. Right?
Yeah,
Time is not good in MMA. Sometimes we have injuries, maybe, but too much time. So he wants to stay active. He probably wants to make a little money. He feels like he can beat this up and coming guy, but then it's very risky because if then you lose to him, now you're like, oh my God, you're losing to unranked guys, and then your career can be in a tailspin all of a sudden. So honestly, I don't like that he took it, but as a fight fan, we're happy because we get to see Gamrot, and we're both big Gamrot guys. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a little bit bigger. As you can see, we went from May 31st. Now, are you seeing this? Now we jump a couple weeks later to June 14th. Headlining in Atlanta, Usman Buckley. Okay. Now, let me give you my take. Usman's still number 4 in the world at welterweight. Buckley has skyrocketed all the way to number 6 in the world. So it is a good fight. Normally I would be really pumped on this, but I think Usman's inactivity and his last couple fights have made me much less like in the Usman business. You see what I mean? I'm not jumping for joy about the fight like I would have maybe a full year or a year and a half ago when he had just lost to Edwards. But then when he went up and fought Kamayev in a different weight class, and did he really show up? I don't know. I mean, he sort of fought. It's kind of like, what are you
really
doing?
Well that fight. I think he could have even won that fight, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that impressive. It was just like, okay. And then it was sort of like he sat here for a year. And so I guess, I mean, just for movement and to see, are you still relevant? He still was one of the best in the world just 2 years ago or something like that. And so I am excited about it with like a little bit of an asterisk, I guess, right? Like I'm excited light, if you will. Buckley, the rising star, that's exciting here because he is number 6 in the world. He does need to get through an Usman to get that title fight. So on that side, I do like it. We always complain we need movement. We need the young guys being able to fight the old guys. We need the rankings to collide. So we're getting movement. Welterweight's a hot division. So overall, I like it, but I wouldn't say it wasn't one of those ones where I saw that I was almost, falling over my desk with excitement, but I like it. What do you say here?
Well, you can't really fall over your desk with excitement when you have Usman, who's, starting to drop in terms of where he is in his career. You do have a surging Buckley, but it's not going to have the fire of if Usman was, sort of in his prime. So it's never going to be that. But I'm curious to see what kind of fight Usman's going to fight, because I know Usman is a wrestler, but he has shown how formidable he is as a striker. And I wonder, is he going to try to stay on his feet with Buckley, or is he going to try to take the guy down? Because that's the way he could win this fight. Will he go there? He's going to try to sort of go mano a mano in the striking.
I think he's got to wrestle a little bit.
It'd be very dangerous to just go mano a mano and just try to keep this on the feet. So he should mix it up, go back to his core roots of who he is, and try to secure that victory, right? But we'll see how this plays out. It's exciting. 2 big names in the sport, 2 exciting names nonetheless. Despite some of your reservations, Ari, despite the little asterisks there, I get it. It's still a good fight for the sport, and excited to see it.
Yeah, and at least it's not the Apex. It's going to be fucking Atlanta, so you're going to get some nice, the nice crowd popping off. It is a good, and then you got Rose and the co-main. You got and they haven't even fully built the card out yet, but it's decent. I like it.
Okay.
I dig it. The next one, just like we talked about before, no news is the news. So let
Right.
me just cover. So, like, the big card that everybody is eyeballing, 2 months away exactly now. We're only 8 weeks away. That's not that much for a camp, baby. So they got to fucking figure out a main card. So DDP Kamaev is not happening anymore because of an undisclosed injury to DDP.
No, but
There's
it's getting
no
pushed
way.
out. It got pushed out officially.
That got pushed out. But
It is. It's
so
not happening this card.
so
It's
that's
happening a
not
little
going to
bit later.
happen this card, right?
Right.
We know Jones and Aspinall is not going to fucking happen because that's 2 months away, and I don't think Jones is going to fucking. He's not going to rush anything. So they're going to have to. They need to figure it out, right? Probably going to end up being some fucking last minute Pereira Ankalaev rematch, which I'm going to get pissed about. Okay. If this happens and they do fucking Pereira Ankalaev 2 and then like Pantoja versus someone in the co-main, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be like,
No,
that's
it's
not enough,
good.
baby. That sucks. I'm going to say that sucks because I don't even want to see that rematch. So it's like, it better be, I gotta hope that they can somehow get Jones Aspinall, but I just don't see it happening now. So I just don't even know. Oh yeah. So the other thing that it could still be is Islam versus somebody. But maybe signs are pointing to you're doing Islam Gaethje and you're doing Topuria Charles in the co-main. That I could live with.
Wow.
I know a lot of people want to see the Topuria fight, but I don't think Islam's signing on the dotted line to that fight. He's sick of fighting featherweights. But the thing is, Topuria has been going back and forth saying BS. He's been saying, I'm going to sit there and wait until I get the belt. I'm going to wait it out. But then now he's posting, a camp has started. So he's signed something, but I don't think he's got Islam. I have a weird feeling he doesn't have Islam. And so I don't know what the fuck they do. Maybe they're going to do Pereira Ankalaev in the main and then Topuria Charles in the threaten Islam that they're going to make it for the interim belt if he doesn't agree to Topuria. I don't know. What do you think here? What's actually going to happen? We have 8 weeks.
Listen, I'm a little sad that you're saying that the Jones Aspinall has been pulled from this possibility.
Well, we don't know that, but I just think of all the stuff Jones has said. I need 6 months once I've signed. It's like, bro, it's 2 months away.
I am so done with the whole wait on Aspinall. Like, I can't wait anymore. He needs to fight. He's wasting his precious years, and that's what Jones is doing. He is playing the PR and he's playing the game to strip Aspinall of his glory. He's not getting the number of fights into his career to create his own legacy because he's dancing around for this massive, huge payout fight, which I get. You're going to want to hold off and see that come through. So I'm disappointed if that's not happening here. And then it's like, when? We're going to wait 9 months? I mean,
it's
so
ridiculous. Then it gets pushed all the way to New York in November or something, just something ridiculous. You wait a whole year for these fights with Jones now at this point. It's like, sucks.
Now, I don't like. I think it's going to be Makhachev Gaethje. It's going to be Makhachev Topuria. So it's going to be one of those two that fill this slot is the way I see this happening, and then they'll fill it in there. They might even still do Ankalaev and Pereira as a co-main, in there, and you might have, so you may end up seeing Topuria and Makhachev as the main fight, and you have Pereira Ankalaev as the co-main, and then you might even in that same card be able to see a Gaethje. I feel like there's too much unknown here. Get this booked. It's actually scarily too close to have this so open-ended here right now. We need it booked.
I know. And they were questioning Dana again last night on. He was just kind of smirking, like, we've got plans. But I'm like, all right, bro. But every year this happens now. It's like this should have already been booked 3 months out. It's too many fighters not taking fights, and it's just so much last minute stuff. And then you give us main cards that maybe aren't the best. Anyway, let's see what happens here. Okay. Oh God. Then you get here. So what pisses me off is that we can't even book International Fight Week, but yet we can book Holloway Poirier 3 for the BMF belt July 19th. So here's my thing. I'm going to try to be somewhat positive. Let's talk about the positives before I just rip this to shreds. Now, yes, the Smith send-off was kind of nice last night. They put a lot on the line. They don't, they get beat up. They risk their lives in this crazy fight that we all love. And it's a bit cutthroat. If you lose 3 or 4, boom, your career is over. And a lot of times they just get discarded and, they never have a great send off. Okay. We love Poirier, even though I used to, have beef with him because of the Conor fights. But overall, he's grown on me, and we like Poirier.
Yeah,
So I like that it's going to be in New Orleans. He's from New Orleans. I don't know if you know his whole background.
I
So they're
do.
going to give him a send off, and and I didn't even realize this the other day. This is actually going to be a full pay-per-view card, and they're going to be the main event, which I hate, but I'll come back to that in a second. But it's going to be a big send off for him, and at least, unlike the Smith, Poirier is still competitive. He almost beat Islam just
I
like
know.
not even a year ago. So that I like more. Okay, that they're at least they're giving him his flowers at his home in his home crowd, and he's still a very unbelievable top 5 in the world competitive fighter. Okay, but what I don't like is, I mean, there's so many things to unpack. I hate the BMF belt. I know Richie's going to disagree, and I know that people in the locker room and the street cred and all this nonsense. But it's like I thought it was kind of funny at first, but now like it's so ridiculous, bro.
It
First
is.
of all, Max is a fucking featherweight. Yes, he came up and beat Justin recently, but it's like at least say you're a lightweight. At least say you're now moving to lightweight and you're trying to beat Poirier. Don't flip this around just so like the street MMA fans are happy because, oh, it's Holloway Poirier. That's going to be a banger. It's like, I don't give a fuck. The BMF belt is meaningless. Poirier's already beaten him twice. Holloway can't beat him at lightweight. So to feel like this is you're basically giving us this entertainment fight that you and me are both against for a meaningless belt, and just another fight for Poirier to just like be able to win so he can win his final fight. But it still was deadly enough because we saw Max just beat Gaethje, and like, okay, I would have preferred if they gave Poirier a real top 5 lightweight. Okay, give him a Charles, give him an Oliveira, try to get that win back so that it still would have meant something. Give him a Tarzukian. But the thing is, I have a feeling the reason why they didn't want to do that is because what if he beats one of those guys and then he retires and then they kind of fall down and they're probably thinking, well, if he beats Holloway, that's fine. That doesn't matter because Holloway is, well, he's still a fucking featherweight that just flops all around, but they don't want him to beat one of their other top contenders if Poirier is walking away. So I guess there's that, but I don't like it. I feel like it's manufactured. Yes, it'll be entertaining. And yes, Poirier is going to have this great, dance off into the sunset. But I think it's bullshit. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you take over, Chael has been posting that fucking Topuria should already have the belt. Topuria beat Holloway. Therefore, the BMF belt should have already passed. I don't like how they didn't put the BMF belt up before because it was the featherweight title, and now they're putting up the BMF belt. You already lost. Topuria should be the champ and the BMF champion right now. So anyway, that's all I'll say. I don't like it. I think Rich's sleaze, especially now this becomes the main event for a pay-per-view. Are you kidding me? It's like the Conor, as much as we love him, the Conor fights change the way that the UFC now, and they're eroding the sport because now it's all this entertainment shit. What do you say?
No, I don't really have any qualms with what you said. I'm with you. It's like a token fight. They're trying to give Poirier deserves the honor. He deserves to get something, the recognition. But this one is sort of like, why are they doing it?
If you had to do it, it's a co-main.
If you put him against like a Charles Oliveira, at least if he wins, then maybe he decides like, I'm not going to retire.
I can stay.
He has a shot, maybe one last shot. It's like, this is like, you're really putting a death knell to it in a way that's like meaningless. It's really just a token fight. It's not serious. It doesn't do anything for either fighter. Even if Holloway wins, if Poirier wins, what does it do? It doesn't do anything to the rankings of the division. So it really just ends up being a token fight. Don't love it. I don't hate it either, to be honest. Like, it's not like I hate it. I get it.
Yeah, we don't hate it, but
yeah. So it is what it is. We just move on. We move on.
The only way that I would say that it's productive at all, besides the entertainment value, putting all that on the shelf, is if Holloway had come out and said, you know what? I looked great against Gaethje, which he did. He looked amazing in that Gaethje fight. He shocked. I couldn't believe he looked bigger. He knocked Gaethje out, right?
Right.
And he broke his nose early. But he goes back and loses to Topuria and didn't really look, he looked okay in the first round. If he had come out and said, you know what, guys? Like Topuria, I'm moving up to lightweight. And and then it would be like, all right, well, he just beat Gaethje. Now it then becomes maybe Holloway could be another top 5 guy at lightweight, but that hasn't happened. He's just flipping around. It's so that to me, Therefore, that ruins that aspect. I mean, he might say that later. If he wins and he's like, okay, I beat Gaethje and I beat Poirier at 155, I can be a competitive lightweight. Holloway's Achilles heel was he could never do it at 155. He lost to Poirier at 155, right? He's lost to other guys at lightweight, and so he always goes back down. So that's why I don't like it. Anyway, that's the last bit of news here. All right, so real quickly, guys, the next segment of the show is State of MMA World. Let's just go back to the 10-8, and then the reason why I wanted to bring up the 10-8 thing is because of the half point system. So first, we already analyzed what we thought about, like, and I don't know if that should have been a 10-8, but it was close. If you have the guy and you're one punch away, why isn't it? It would have been better if there was 2 different knockdowns and Garry was completely out of it multiple times, right? Then that could have been a 10-8. But it was still like, hey, so how do you at least more clarity on what is a 10-8? But now the other thing that I want to just bring up is the one thing that I almost forgot to bring up the first time we talked about the half point system. Okay. Now, I always bring up the 10 9s and then the 10 9.5 rounds. The one thing I forgot to bring up to you, though, is that in that system, there could be 10 8.5s. Okay. So you don't need to give the full 10-8. That to me should have been a 10 8.5.
Yes. I'm with you.
Therefore, you then are not going to get the draws. I mean, you might still, so that's probably why they're not going to do it. But that would have then probably been, you see what I mean? So I wonder if with the half point system, then they would be more inclined, because it's either the 10-9 and the 10-8s are very rarely given. They wait for complete beatdowns where the guy is almost like dead in the ring before they give a fucking 10-8. But if they knew they had the 10 8.5, then a really dominating round, you would get more out of it than your standard 10-9. Do you like that?
I love that. That they need, that's a type of nuance that I think better captures qualitative, like it captures the quality of the exchanges and the overall round, like the judging of the round. If you can get that nuance in there, because if there is a difference, I could see they've already defined what a 10-8 round is by virtue that they barely ever give it, right? So it's like one thing, that's what it is. But we do see rounds come up where it's not a 10-8, right? Where it's an outright just complete destruction, but it's pretty darn close, and it's lopsided in heavily in one favor, where you can't give it a 10-8. You definitely shouldn't give it a 10-9. So you give it the 10 8.5. That makes sense. And they jump out at you. These situations come up. It's not like so crazy, or we're not stretching. It's like, just take a look at the round. And as a round, like it makes sense. So I'm with it. But again, are they going to adopt this system? Is this going to change? Are we going to see this? Or is this us just kind of like swirling around in our heads, and we've been like just toying with it between us?
It's us just talking, but a lot of people do talk about other people. They've been mulling this over, because I think that would be fair, and it would much better differentiate the close rounds, the rounds you almost can't even call, which become the 10 9.5s. Right. To then the really dominating rounds, but not a full 10-8. That's a 10 8.5, because it should be better than your standard 10-9, and then it might work. Maybe then the draws won't show up like I think they're going to show up. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, because I'm like, if last night wasn't a 10-8, what the fuck is?
Right.
Okay. And, maybe 2 knockdowns where he would have been almost finished, then fine. But I thought even the commentators once in a while say that they're supposed to be more liberal with giving out 10-8s, and then you still don't see them. So I'm like, if that wasn't one, and they're trying to be more liberal with them, what is a fucking 10-8?
I know.
And then I like the 10 8.5s.
Yeah, I like that. Was a 10 8.5. I'm with you.
Yes, right? Okay. So now, baby, our favorite time of the fucking show, this divisional analysis. We're going to hit this one, and it's perfect timing because last week, as I mentioned earlier, there was a lot of featherweight action. Are you locked in with this?
I'm locked in. I got it right here. Wow.
All right. So really quickly, you know how I do the historical moments in time on the divisions. Now, featherweight was not even in the UFC for a long time for any of the young fans on this call, okay? Featherweight existed in other organizations, like some of the Japanese leagues and especially the WEC, Okay. And there was great featherweight champions like Aldo over in the WEC. And then I think it was around the 2012, 2013 time period, the UFC purchases the WEC. They move over the divisions, and Aldo instantly became the featherweight UFC champion, I believe, without having to win a fight. He was crowned right away. And then, of course, he reigned for a while. Now, before I go back into the fighters, I just want to talk about a lot of other people thought these are too small. I mean, lightweight was always at my limit of those are smaller guys. And I was like, featherweight, bantamweight, and flyweight didn't even exist yet. It was just featherweight and bantamweight for your knowledge here. Okay. And for a while I was like, really? Do we really want to see these 145 and 135? And I was apprehensive until I start seeing the fights. And I was like, holy shit, they're a little bit smaller than lightweight, unbelievably athletic, super fast, and they still have great power. And over time, I love featherweight, and I even love bantamweight. It's one of the better divisions. Now, we still get these, one of our fans, Christian S, he still says, I don't care about the light. I'm like, no, bro, you're not watching enough. You're not knowledgeable anymore. You're thinking about 10 years ago. The sport has changed. Conor McGregor was his whole career a featherweight. He only has a couple lightweight fights. The rest were all featherweight and welterweight. So if we denounce any of these lower classes, we're denouncing Conor. So with that, let's go back to Aldo, right? Aldo had been the unstoppable champion for the longest time, okay? And speaking of Conor, Conor McGregor comes up like a fucking rocket ship. And then we all remember this brought so many casuals and mainstream people to the sport. I'm sad that you missed these days because you weren't in the sport yet, baby.
Right,
but Conor comes in, he starts talking crap. And then all of a sudden they book the fight, Aldo Conor, fight of the century at featherweight. And now the smaller classes, there's more eyes on them because of this new Conor, meteor that was hitting the sport. And then, of course, that fight occurs and Conor wins in 20 seconds. I completely went ape shit in a bar in Costa Mesa, Richie boy. Okay, I lost my mind. I was screaming in the bar. I was getting bad looks from Aldo fans. It was insane. And so Conor takes the belt, right? But then Conor being Conor, he fucks around. He leaves the belt. He goes and fights Floyd. He goes all the way up to, fights Diaz and wastes all these fucking, then he goes, of course, beats Alvarez. So, but back to featherweight, Aldo then resets himself. He beats Frankie Edgar. He gets the belt back. So that's one part of the story people forget. Aldo was that reigning champ. And then at that time, that's when then Holloway shows up. This new young Hawaiian, and all of a sudden, he finally dethrones Aldo once and for all and kind of shocks the world. I think he beats him twice. And everyone's like, oh my God. And he looked like this unstoppable champ. And then Volkanovski shows up, and it's always a lot of these other divisions. We talk about always the next guy that has the kryptonite for the champ who you think is now unstoppable. And right as we thought it was the Holloway era forever because his hands were unbelievable. No one could box like him, and he had the range to get Aldo. Now Volkanovski, this fucking bull, comes in and beats Holloway 3 fucking times. And then you jump all the way to Topuria. Topuria then dethrones Volkanovski and sends everything into a fucking crazy free fall.
Yep.
Now, with Topuria leaving, now we can get into the present state of the division. Volkanovski shocked the world, as we just saw, and he's now the undisputed champ again, like what Aldo did. He had been dethroned, but he got it back. Okay, and now Max is still sitting there, even though it's dude, move up to fucking lightweight or not. I'm sick of this bullshit. You've already lost to Volkanovski 3 times. Lopez, as we can see here, he's still a force to be reckoned with, right? He just lost to Volkanovski, as we all know. I don't like that they have Topuria on here, as you noticed recently. I think that's BS. If he needs to be removed from this. So of course what they're thinking is the fight's going to be Volkanovski versus Evloev. What? Champion versus number 4.
He didn't beat Emmett, right?
So then Rodriguez is still sitting there. He just beat Pitbull, and now he's right there. So Evloev, I think, gets the shot. Volkanovski wants to be active. Rodriguez should get, be then the next one after that. But then you got Allen, you got Ortega, you got Murphy, and don't forget Aljamain. He's still there, and I thought he got screwed on a couple bad decisions. He's still there. I think Emmett's sliding now. He's 40. I don't think he's going to be able to do it if his right hand doesn't land. And then you have Silva, your new boy. So that whole pack right there, Allen, Ortega, Murphy, Sterling, Silva, all still very deadly. I think what has to happen is if Holloway decides to stay in this weight class, he's got to go down and fight one of these guys. Like Holloway, if you're just staying at featherweight, go down and fight a Lopez, go down and maybe fight Rodriguez while they're waiting, fight an Allen, fight an Ortega, something like that, right? And then Silva's going to come up and fight one of those guys. And then you look at the bottom half, and you got Giga, who kind of slipped there, even though I thought he won that fight. Zalal is another new young gun killer there. And then we know Mitchell is done. Ige, I think he's always around, but is he going to be a champ? And Cater's he's not really going to be a champ. So I think it's really the top heavy there with Volk, Evloev, Rodriguez. And then there's still really good guys in the middle of the pack that have been they've been stale and they need to get booked. What do you say here?
Okay. The featherweight division has been defined by Alexander Volkanovski the last few years. The fact that he was able to retain his, come back and reclaim his title is exciting for this weight class. For me, this is Volkanovski's reign is still here. And what I see about this class here, if you look at it, I'd love to look at it from a macro perspective. You said the word top heavy. That was the word I was going to use, but I actually think it's top and middle heavy. It's the 10 through 15 are fighters that don't have faith that can ever make a run again. Okay. At this moment in time, I will say that 10 through 15 doesn't look good. But once you start hitting Silva, look at Sterling, look at Murphy, look at Ortega even has a little cachet still left in him. But Arnold Allen, right? So the middle of the pack has a lot of upside, okay? So the middle of the pack is strong and making inroads, and then you have the top of the pack is very stacked there, okay? You have a very stacked top five, going on here from Rodriguez, Evloev, right? Take Topuria out of it, but you have Lopez and you have Holloway and you have Volkanovski. So there's a lot going on there. It's a very exciting division and it's very competitive. So I do think there's a lot happening here. This is really one of the classes that has just cemented as you can't ignore it, right? You can't ignore it. It's not the ugly cousin to the lightweight anymore. It is in its own right a formidable class that we are interested in. I want to see where Murphy goes, right? I want to see where Silva goes next. I want to see Arlen Allen's next fight. Who is that going to be? And then when you look at Volkanovski, who does he get next? I think you said it's Evloev. I think it should be if Evloev is the next.
Evloev, yes.
Evloev. I could call him Evloev. It's Evloev. Sorry about that. Versus Volkanovski. I think that's the next fight that's to come. And I think Volkanovski can actually get another win under his belt there. I think he can squeak a victory there. And then the sky opens up for a lot of these other fight potential, right? Depending what happens with Rodriguez, Allen, Ortega, Murphy, Sterling, and Silva that can come into the mix. I don't know what Max Holloway does. I don't know. He, like you said, he should be fighting one of these cats here, right? He should be fighting one of these cats if he's around. But no, he's going to fight Dustin. So it's kind of a wasted fight for him. If he still wants to be someone here, is he trying to be a champ or not? I don't get it. I don't love that. But overall, an exciting weight class, and I love the way we've sort of taken it apart here.
Yeah, and just to address that thing, it's like Holloway, make up your fucking mind. Either fight here or not, or move to fucking lightweight. At least Topuria, even though I'm not happy about it, he was gracious enough to just say, I'm gonna go up. That's it. I'm leaving the class. Versus this years of I'm gonna fight a featherweight, I'm gonna fight a lightweight. Exactly. It's just like I don't like that nonsense of like, well, I'm not gonna be champion anymore, so I'll do all these fun fights that the fans still like. I'm like, not us. Anyway.
Are we gonna see Lopez Rodriguez, you think? Lopez Rodriguez next?
Maybe, yeah, because they have beef. Remember, they had beef in the press conference. They were going back and forth with each other in Spanish. They got really heated. So I don't hate the Lopez Rodriguez in the meantime of Evloev Volk, which is probably going to happen. And then Holloway, well, he's fighting, later, so he's already booked. But I say like Allen's got to fight a Murphy or an Ortega, and then get Sterling back in the mix there. Maybe Sterling Silva. That could be
Mm.
very interesting
Ooh, wow.
and to get those guys moving along. So,
See,
all right,
these
well,
are
we hope.
exciting possibilities here. There's a lot of combination that can happen. They're very exciting. So that's what I love
Yes.
about this class. So I'm glad we were able to like, spend a little time and look at
Yes.
it because there's so much that can happen here.
Yes, excellent. Okay. So with that, guys, let's go to commercial break one more time. Okay, and we're back, baby, for the final section of the show where we're going to rapid fire. We're going to go through our picks. We're going to look at the next 2 weeks. We're going to finish this off strong. Boom. Are you seeing this?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay. So I love this because the next 2 cards are great. 1 week away, baby. And I like how it's not the fucking Apex. I feel like Dana's slowly listening to us. He's slowly listening to our gripes.
through osmosis.
It's in Iowa, baby. I like these Midwestern,
Right.
fucking redneck crowds
Yeah, the
because I
KC
liked how
crowd,
Kansas
Kansas
City.
City was exciting. That was great.
Exactly. We need these drunken Midwesterners hammering, and giving us. And this is a great fight, and it's a pretty good card. So let's just rapid fire. I just want to mention. Oh, here's one thing that we've been grilling Dana to make sure that you give us 3 rankings on a fight night, which we did get, counting Montel Jackson. And then I just want to show you something. Even in the prelims, we got Misha Tate, who's an champion. They're ranked, and even below, there's more ranked females. So at least as far as rankings go, they're starting to pop up in the fight nights more often now, more prevalently. We're seeing
Yes.
rankings. Okay, so we're gonna rapid fire go through this now. Jeremy Stevens. He's used to be a UFC great. He was a fan favorite. I loved him. The little heathen. He's actually normally a featherweight. He's got unbelievable bombs. He had left the UFC. He's been fighting bare knuckle. He's a total crazy guy. And because he's from this area, they're bringing him back in. But you see what
Wow.
I mean? This is acceptable. It's the first fight of a main. They're bringing him back in because he's a fan favorite of the area. And yes, he doesn't have the same prestige as an Anthony Smith because Anthony Smith, fought for the belt and was, higher ranked than Stevens. But Stevens was big in his day. I was always a huge Jeremy Stevens fan. So I don't hate that they're doing this because it's just the first fight of the main card of a fight night. So going back to Richie boy, this to me is acceptable. You're bringing Jeremy back in. But as you can see, Mason Jones is a minus 440. I don't even know this fucking guy because he's from Wales. But right now I'm touching Jones because even though I love Jeremy Stevens and I'd love to take him against you, I got to be swayed by Vegas. I'm touching Jones. Are you agreeing?
I'm taking Jones there. And, Jeremy Stevens, because he's a, hometown hero, he might have a shot to pull something crazy off. But despite that, I think I'm taking Mason Jones, given where he is in his career, and he's favored for a reason.
Right. So now we're going to go straight to Smotherman, Saidi. Now they're both kind of relatively new. Smotherman made his debut. He won recently. Saidi had lost one, and then he also won recently. Saidi is a slight minus 145 favorite. But because I'm up 7 fights on you, I'm going to take Smotherman. I'm going to go US, and I'm going to take the slight underdog. I'm going a little bit cold because these are newer guys. They're probably from the fucking contend. The one thing I will say, Niko, that I need to do a better job of is I didn't watch a lot of the contender series last year. So I missed a lot of these newer guys. And I'm going to make a proclamation to the fans that when contender series comes back, your boy Wally is never going to miss any card. But anyway, so I'm taking Smotherman. I'm being a little bit risky. What do you say here?
I'm taking Smotherman too.
Wow.
Take the American. I think he's a striker, right? And he's got speed. I'm going with that.
You had a shot, though, to reclaim some fights on there.
I'm not going to do it
it
on this one. I'm not going to take the bait on that.
Okay, so then we get, and I like it, there's a ranked guy. Listen, we asked for ranked guys. Dana's delivering. Montel Jackson, and I had to look this up. He's won 5 straight fights. Wow. New American killer, bantamweight guy, number 15 in the world now. I love when they're dancing on the doorstep. But here's the thing, be careful. We've seen Marcos before. He's won 4 straight. So I like this. Even on a fight night, they're giving us rising stars that are both on massive win streaks. I'm taking Jackson just because he's the minus 185. And I like the American killer coming up, and I don't fully trust Marcos, but that's a scary one because we've seen Marcos. What do you say here?
I take Montel Jackson here. I'm taking the momentum. He's won 5 straight. I think we should coin that phrase, dancing on the doorstep. I love that. Ari. So I think
Yes.
he's actually knocked through the door, and he's going to continue to walk through the hallway, so to speak. So let's take Montel there.
Yes. And then this is where it gets interesting. Three fights to go. There's Ponzinibbio and then Rodriguez, Richie's boy. Okay, Rodriguez, local favorite around here. I always go against him though, and we both love Ponzinibbio, but I'm a little bit torn. They're both coming off wins because they reset their careers. They had lost a couple. They're both coming off wins to keep them relevant. Ponzinibbio had actually danced right out. He'd been in the top 15 before. Both of them had been ranked like right around 13 at some points in their careers. I'm going to take Ponzinibbio and go with the slight underdog just
That's
to
what
goose you
I'm
because I know you're
doing.
going to do that. I never take Rodriguez. We'll let Richie boy take him.
Wow, no, yeah, I got Ponzinibbio because I love him. I love his
Yeah,
fighting
we love the
spirit.
Argentinian.
Yeah, he's just a great Argentinian striker, and he's just always active. He's always stays aggressive. I'm with him. I'm sticking with him, and disappointed that you're not taking Rodriguez.
I know that would have been big for you. Okay, so
Yeah.
then listen, this is a big fight. We talked about this before. We addressed it a couple weeks ago. Nickel, DeRitter, I love. See, this is a solid co-main because now it'll be like, is Nickel for real? This will be the first test for us to know, is he for real? DeRitter is a champ at the 1FC, light heavyweight and middleweight. He's number 13 in the world. He came in, right? He beat Holland. He stole the ranking. But of course, that could have been a joke fight, but whatever. He's a great grappler and good striker, but really good on the ground, making Nickel's wrestling a little bit less like he's going to mop the floor with them, right? But I have to go with my guy, even though I'm very worried about this because Nickel did not look good in his last fight against Craig. It was a very lackluster affair. I hope he does take him down, even though DeRitter's good on the ground. I'm taking Nickel, but very cautiously, but with the minus 278. How do you disagree?
I'm taking Nickel, and I'm not cautious about it. I feel good about it. I didn't think he did poorly the last fight. I just felt his expectations were so high, so he underperformed expectation. But he's still, it seems to me, like a dominant where he's at, and he's still going to continue to make the rounds, and he's going to enter that door. He's going to get the 13th ranking, in my opinion. So we need him to show up, and I think he will.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Right now, big
Great
main
one.
event. I love this for a non-pay-per-view. This is a big fight. Listen, they're both coming off losses, but very tough losses. Corey had to go against Umar, and Umar is just a wrestling fucking phenom, another one of those Nurmagomedovs, right? But he held his own. He was in the fight. He just got outworked. And then Figgy, who had moved up to bantamweight, as you know, was running the table with a lot of people until he ran into Jan, which you saw was like that early morning fight from Asia that I like missed. Yep. And he got outworked, but they're both still there. I don't know why Sandhagen is that heavily favored. He's a minus 410. I think it should be much closer, but because of that, I'm going to have to go with my boy Corey. I got to take Sandhagen here. What do you say?
I'm taking Sandhagen. I still like him. I really enjoy watching him fight. I like his style. Technically, he's so sound. He's got speed. He just keeps it interesting. And I think he handedly takes Figueiredo down. I think he'll win the fight handily. Probably be a decision, 5 rounds, to be honest, and just kind of dominate through those 5 rounds and get it ultimately. That's my take on this one.
Yeah, it's going to be close, though, and it's 4 versus 5 in the world, so it's actually a pretty important fight for bantamweight. In our next show, when we bring Richie Boy into the fold, we'll be analyzing bantamweight, so it'll actually be perfect because that will be our weight class. It's
great.
Funny how things keep lining up like that.
They line
like every
up
time
nice.
we do it, we're coming off some big fights in that class. Okay, Mohamed Della Maddalena, UFC 315. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite card ever, but it's a pretty damn good fucking pay-per-view. I like it in Montreal, so I like it's going to be the Canadian international crowds. I feel like every time we have international crowds, they get real rowdy and wild. I like the fight, even though it should have been Muhammad Rakhmonov deep in our minds, but Della Maddalena, he's a killer. He came off that unbelievable Burns victory, come from behind with those crazy strikes late in the fight. Now, really quickly, the only prelim that I just want to bring to your mind, you like quick turnaround.
Cutelaba.
Cutelaba and Bukaskis both came off massive wins on the same card, and Dana is already fast tracking them to another fight. So I like it, like when there's quick turnarounds and there's like
I like that too.
movement. You
Yeah,
see what I mean? They both came off big wins. They said, Dana, give me a fight. Boom, he delivered. Okay, we'll get to the
love it.
main card. Now, this first one you're going to love because
Yeah.
your guy Alvarez, who I just been mentioning, don't forget that new Spaniard who's a killer, who had actually been in the top 15, and then Armin dispatched of him like really brutally. And I was like, oh my God. And then, but he reset himself. He took a year off and now he's mowing through people. Okay, he's number 15 in the world against the Saint Denis, who also looked great. But then since the Poirier loss, and then since the Moicano loss, he's free falling, and that's why Alvarez is favored. Alvarez came off a couple wins in a row, so I'm touching Alvarez, but cautiously because Saint Denis, he's French, but he's sort of fighting in front of the French Canadians. I'll give him a little bit of a hometown vibe there. They'll be on his side, but I'm taking Alvarez.
I'm taking Alvarez. Move on. That's
Done.
that's
That's
that's what
it.
that's what it that's what it
Okay.
is. I mean, you got to. Saint Denis on a free for all. Alvarez is resetting. It's just a matter of the trend line
Yeah.
of where it's going. And I think, you know, Saint Denis will, if he falls, he'll be at 15, and that, you know, and then he'll have to just have one last stand to try to stay relevant. That's how it's going to play out, I think.
Yes. So, but I love a great opening
It'll be
fight to
a
the
great
night.
one, though.
Gives
It'll
us
be
great
absolutely.
answers at lightweight. We always want to see movement in the top 15, and Dana actually delivered. Everybody's ranked in this. Now, this one is very tricky because Grasso was the champ at flyweight. Okay, she beat Shevchenko and shocked the world. Then she defended. They got the draw against Shevchenko and she held the belt. And then finally she lost in the trilogy fight to Shevchenko. But she's still the number one contender in the world. Meanwhile, not Natalia Silva she's a great grappler. She's been mowing through gals and she's now minus 205. But I'm going to take Grasso. I don't trust Silva yet. I think Grasso is too good, and she's dealt with these grapplers with Shevchenko, so she's been probably drilling wrestling day and night, so she's not taken down, and her Mexican boxing is amazing. I'm going to take Grasso one last time and take an underdog. What do you say here?
I'm staying with Grasso too. Just the pedigree and
Wow.
the experience. I'd love to take Silva, and they you know, she's on the hype train, but Grasso's solid and experience. I think I'm going to stick with it.
I'm surprised because I was trying to give you a favorite there, and you're not
I
taking it
know
when I've been
I'm not
taking these
taking it.
underdogs. That could
Um,
come back to haunt you here.
I might change
Okay.
my mind by the end of this. By the end of
Yeah,
this
it's too late,
segment.
baby. It's too late. Once you lay,
Okay.
you lay.
All right.
Now,
I'm in.
then
I'm
we
in.
get into Aldo Zahabi, right? They had to get a Canadian on the main, but I like how they didn't overdo it with just putting hometown people. They gave us the best fighters for the card versus just throwing a bunch of Canadians on there, which they kind of did with the Australian card. Remember, we were kind of pissed about that. And we're like, what kind of fucking main card is this? So I like how they gave us. But Zahabi, I checked this out. He's won 5 straight fights. I'm very worried. Aldo also, he's coming off the loss to Batista. So I'm a little bit like, man, Zahabi is probably the smart pick. Aldo's older. He had even been retired. He fights down at bantamweight now. But for some weird or stupid reason, I'm going to let Vegas maybe know something that we don't. And maybe I just take Aldo one last time.
And
Fine,
I
I'm
don't.
touching
It's
Aldo, but
done.
I don't
Done.
like it. I don't like this pick.
You get Aldo. I got Zahabi. I'm definitely in on
Fuck.
that one.
God damn it. See that, yeah, that one I don't know why. This doesn't look good because I think Aldo's older. It's coming off the loss, a hobby 5 straight in front of his home crowd. So we get to the co-main and the main. Shevchenko versus Ferro. Now, Shevchenko finally had lost the belt to Grasso. Then she got that crazy draw, as I talked about. And finally, in the trilogy, she got the win. She got her belt back after a year and a half of suffering and being devastated. But meanwhile, the beast, Ferro, this girl is jacked, man. She is insane. She beat Rose. She also beat Blanchfield, who was that other new American star. She's really tough to deal with. She's got great grappling, great hands, and that's why she's the minus 130. But I'm just going to dance with Shevchenko one last time because I don't think she's done. And maybe Ferro is finally stepping up into a class, an air that she's not going to be able to deal with. And Shevchenko gets one last signature win for us, but I'm very worried about this. What do you say, sire?
Foyro. I'm taking Foyro.
Wow.
She's
Wow,
formidable,
okay.
and maybe Shevchenko did steal back the belt, but, I don't know if she can defend it. I'm sticking with the number 2
God
ranked.
damn. Yeah, you're gonna have some good shots to come back at me here. And then, of course, the main event with Muhammad. It was supposed to be Muhammad Rakhmonov. I know I just got to drop it, but I still love the fight. I'm worried that Jack Della, it looks like his Achilles heel is the grappling. I mean, Burns was about to beat him with the wrestling, and if Burns can grapple him, then Muhammad can. And we know that's Muhammad's skill. So I feel like
Right.
Muhammad's going to be smart. He's not going to stand too much, even though he stupidly said, "Oh, I'm going to stand and bang with Jack Della." I'm like, yeah, right, bro. Don't say, like, I'm sick of people saying they're gonna do, like, yeah, maybe a little bit in the first round, but if he's smart and he doesn't want to get storched by Jack Della, who's maybe one of the scariest young guns in the division, especially with the hands, he's got to use his grappling. And so I think after maybe Jack Della touches him a little bit in round 1, Muhammad's going to be smart enough. He's going to grapple him. I don't think he gets the finish. I think it's another rugged, rough 5-round decision of taking Jack Della and kind of drowning him and get the takedowns and take him into deep waters. And I think Muhammad does it. I'm taking Muhammad. What do you say?
I'm taking Jack de Maddalena,
Wow.
okay? Without hesitation. It's a little bit of a gut pick. It's a little bit of a heart pick. I've not been sold on Bilal Muhammad and his sort of career trajectory. I just don't see him as dominant as a lot of people have him. I think Jack, if he can do what he did with Burns and at least survive some of the grappling and get those opportunities on the feet, we're gonna be talking a new champion. So
Wow.
that's my take. I keep it very simple. Jack, the young gun, as you called him, takes it.
Wow. Okay. So those are our picks. And I love that now to remind you the next show will be with Richie Boy and it'll be the morning after this card. So we're going to be coming in buzzing. And that was so great to, when there's a nice big pay-per-view and then because you want to talk about it the next day. So we're going to be fired up.
It'll be hot.
Okay. So really quickly, the if you were to touch segment. Okay. Here's a couple. I like Alvarez because he's only a minus 166, and I think he looks good here. I'm going to take Alvarez as a great if you were to touch. Okay. I'm also going to say Shevchenko because you're getting a dominant champ at plus 110. Okay. And yes, that's pretty much a pick 'em, but I'm saying if you're getting her even money, how do you not take it? Even though Ferro really worries me. Do you like any?
I like the plus 170
touches?
on the previous page. I like that one.
Oh, wait, which
plus
one?
170.
Zahabi?
Yeah, of Zahabi.
Yeah, okay, fine, because he's won 5 straight. Aldo's older. Why don't we just end with that? So we're going to take Shevchenko. We're going to say Zahabi for the upside because maybe Aldo doesn't have it anymore. And then we're going to say Alvarez. But I don't really want to touch Muhammad because he's too heavily favored. Yeah, Jack Della, to me, is a little bit too much of a Hail Mary. If the punch doesn't land, he probably doesn't win. So those are our if you were to touch.
Love it.
So thank you, sir. I think that was our show. How are you feeling here?
I'm feeling great. We have a big mountain ahead of us here. We got 2 big cards before our next time we meet. You're going to probably have an interim touch base, a little quick half hour.
Yes,
right,
next week I'll do an update.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. And we're coming off a great card. We're looking ahead, and we're waiting. We're all sort of thinking, when is the news going to drop on that blank card that still has yet to be filled? We'll find out soon, everyone. We'll check you all later. Make sure to stay tuned, comment, like. We're here.
So with that, thank you for listening to the Wally Report, the world's hottest podcast. Please subscribe, follow, comment, like, share, and blast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're blasted hard on the talk, and we're heavy on the gram at the Wally Report. And now we're taking over YouTube as well. The new hottest place for TWR and MMA savvy video content is on YouTube. That's at the Wally Report. We've been posting amazing video clips on all of our social channels, as I just mentioned, so don't miss out. And please make sure to comment on Spotify, comment on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We love the comments. We love the interactions. And don't forget to subscribe, baby. So with that, we're going to jam out to our tune.